Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace, reporting live here at the Jazz Standard here in New York City. Tonight, blessing the band stage is guitar virtuoso and composer John Abercrombie, and his latest ECM Records release, Within a Song, features the legendary Joe Lovano on tenor saxophone. What he's doing a little different on this recording is, one, instead of recording a lot of his original songs, this time he paid homage to two things. One, the jazz recordings that he listened to growing up following jazz, as well as paid homage to some of the great jazz composers and giants, ranging from Ornette Coleman, Miles Davis, to John Coltrane. Tonight we're going to sit down and talk about the concept of this brand new CD. Also, we're going to talk about his origins growing up and him playing with the likes of Chico Hamilton, Billy Cobham, as well as Jack DeJohnette, one of his dear friends. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the sounds of Mr. John Abercrombie, live here at the Jazz Standard here in New York City. Song. This is your latest CD, and it's got a killer performance by Drew Gress as well as Joe Lovano.
That's right, and Joey Barron. It's a quartet, yeah, and it's the latest thing. It's already been out for about, I guess, 5 months, but it's the most recent thing that I've recorded. Yeah.
One of the things that I told the viewers setting up this piece, that this is something that is really different outside of your mode of recording. Normally you record a lot of your compositions, but this time you decided to pay homage to some of the great jazz greats that you grew up listening to.
Exactly. Well, no, I was thinking about trying to do something just for, one composer or one artist, and then I realized it was impossible for me to do that because there were just too many people that had influenced me, and it was easier for me just to think of different people and different compositions that I heard when I was growing up. So I thought of my favorite records. I thought of Sonny Rollins with Jim Hall on the bridge. I thought of John Coltrane, Crescent. I thought of Gil Evans and all his great albums. I thought of Miles, of course, Kind of Blue, and Ornette Coleman, of course. So I thought of all these different people, and then in the meantime, I also wrote a couple of my own tunes, just to keep the thing, keep it in the family, keep writing some new music. But I really wanted to pay homage to that period of music, the '60s. Not so much one person, but the whole, what I considered the most important things to me,
And how did you incorporate Joe Lovano into this project? Was this something that you guys been wanting to do? Because you guys have recorded and performed over the years, but was this something that you really wanted Joe to be on?
Yes, I really wanted. I didn't have everyone picked out right away. I just knew that I wanted to do something. I wanted this ensemble. I wanted a quartet. And when I thought about saxophone, I mean, somebody that could play this kind of music, but would be also open to doing something else, a more modern player, but steeped in the tradition. I mean, and Lovano's name comes first of all to mind, and I didn't want to try to, ask somebody like Sonny Rollins to play music he had played with Jim Hall. I wanted this to be like people from my generation, more or less. And so I couldn't think of anyone better to do it than Joe. And you're right, Joe and I have played on many occasions. We used to tour Europe with a French bass player in a quartet. I recorded on Joe's first record called Landmarks, and he recorded on one of my records called Open Land years ago. We've done countless gigs together, so he was the perfect choice, And he jumped at the chance, and he really wanted to do it, so. I chose people that really wanted to do it too, I wanted people to really want to play this music and not just, oh, it's another gig, like I really want to play that period of music, but in our way.
John, another thing that is really different about this project too is that everyone is pretty much aware of the many variations of your quartet, quintet, and organ ensembles, and also your other special projects. Mm-hmm. What was it about the breakup of your last group and you putting together this group?
Well, the last group it's not completely broken up. I think these groups kind of like surface and resurface. Like the organ group, a matter of fact, I mean that's what we're playing here tonight at the Jazz Standard, is really is a continuation of my organ band with Adam Nussbaum and now Gary Versace. The original organ player was a guy named Dan Wall. And we've added Seamus Blake to the mix to make it a quartet. So as you see, the organ thing is still kind of percolating. The other band with Mark Feldman and that particular band will probably resurface at some point. So I wouldn't consider it a breakup as it is just a slight separation, And then I wanted to do something more in this vein with the saxophone and play that kind of music. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get. I did one gig at Birdland with Joe Lovano and Drew Gress, and Adam played drums. And I made a tour of Europe that Joe Lovano couldn't do, so I used the saxophonist named Billy Drews, but I used Joey Barron and Drew Gress. So this is sort of an idea for a new band. How long it lasts, I don't know. It's really like, can we? It's funny when you put together a band like that. Then the next step is, well, can you work with it? Can you get gigs? Can you sustain a band like this? Is it? So we'll see. There's definitely was a lot of interest in the recording. It got great reviews. Everyone seems to understand what it was about. So now we just hope that, I'm hoping that I can get some gigs with it and make this a new band, yeah.
Piggyback on something you had said earlier about recording these standards now, or these from the masters. You said that Jim Hall and the Gil Evans interplay was one of those albums that kind of opened your world to not only his music but his guitar style.
Exactly.
And then also the bridge with Sonny Rollins was another window that opened endless possibilities to your style. What is it about the genius in the compositions of Jim Hall that has really made him one of the foremost architects next to Wes Montgomery?
Well, you just kind of said it when you used the word composition. You know, I mean, because Jim Hall to me improvises in a compositional manner. I mean, he doesn't just string together a bunch of things that he's worked on. He's a real thoughtful, as you know. I mean, he's a very thoughtful player, and he's very compositional and thematic. And I think that's what attracted me to his playing, was that ability to create melodies kind of on the spot. And you know, he wasn't just playing quote unquote licks. He was really composing things. And then also, I loved his sound. He got one of those beautiful electric guitar sounds. It was so pure and warm. And the other thing that I admired about his playing was the way he played in a band, the way he played with Sonny Rollins, the way he played with Art Farmer, the way he played with Gil Evans. He knew how to fit into a situation and complement the situation in such a way that, to me, it just sounded perfect. I mean, and you have to remember back in the 60s when I heard a lot of this music, the other guitar players who were playing at the time were all great, but great soloists, but a lot of them didn't have this quality that Jim had about being able to mesh inside a band and make it come to life, you know, and his chord voicings, just everything he did was so different. It was kind of revolutionary at the time, and you sort of had to be there to understand what I mean, because being a guitar player, I grew up trying to, you know, I was listening to Kenny Burrell and Wes and, you know, Grant Green and Jimmy Rainey and Tal Farlow and all these great players. And then I heard Jim, and it was like, wow, there's definitely something different going on here, you know. And I think that's what attracted me to him. It was different, it was fresh, and it was very compositional, you know, completely. Yeah.
You are one of the few jazz artists who have recorded their whole entire career on a major imprint in jazz, which is ECM Records. Mm-hmm. Tell me, after 4 decades, why you've decided to continue recording with the legendary label, and what is it about your relationship with them that has kept you there? Because, I mean, you've recorded some very magical recordings with them, as well as some other side groups that you've recorded with them too.
Well, that's the answer right there. I met the people, Manfred Eicher from ECM Records, probably in, I'm guessing in the early 70s. Maybe 1970. I met him through, this is various friends like Dave Holland and Ralph Towner and people that I knew. And I think I made my first record for Manfred. Actually, the first thing I did for ECM was a sideman on 2 Dave Liebman records. One was called Lookout Farm, and the other was called Drum Ode, which had, as you can imagine, a lot of different drummers on it. And then after that, Manfred from ECM said, why don't you make your own record? So that was 1973. And I think the reason I stay with him is because he lets me do what I want to do. He encourages me to try new things. And he encouraged me to do this particular project, which is actually doing something from an earlier generation, and like a tribute. So I think we work really well together. I think we inspire each other. And the thing is, he's completely loyal. ECM is completely loyal to me. They always want to record me, which makes me want to work with them. It's like a shared loyalty that we have. And when I tell people that I've been recording since 1973 with the same record label, they go, I can't believe that. I mean, everybody else has been with about 10 or 15 labels, in that amount of time. I said, well, I don't have an answer for that except what I just told you, that we seem to have this relationship that works well, and the fact that he's amazingly loyal and with you, all the way, and that's a rare thing, and I don't want to lose the opportunity to make the music I make. I mean, if I had to leave ECM for some reason, I still would make the music, but it's just nice to know that there's this place I can go to every year and a half or so and make a new project, I don't need to do more than that, just as long as I keep documenting some things. So, and the most important thing about the recordings and documents, I think, are that you can, hopefully from this, form a band, like this band or other bands I've had, and develop the music. So the recording gives you the opportunity to be better known, get work, and develop your music. So they all kind of feed one another, and I think I'm blessed, to have this situation. I mean, most people would kill for this position, and I'm also lucky too. I was in the right place at the right time, and I met the right guy, and he said, I like what you do, and I'll stick with you, And that's the way it's been.
What does jazz music mean to you?
Expression, you know. I mean, overall it means expression, but more importantly it means, see, I get very, I may seem like I'm the most extremely open because I've tried so many different kinds of music. I've fooled around with guitar synthesizers. I've played free music. I've played with a lot of Europeans. I've played jazz rock. I've played with organ groups. I mean, I've played with all these different situations. But to me, jazz, it's got something to do. It's got something to do with Black American music, which comes from the blues, which up to a certain point had swing involved in it. So I don't hear people talk about the swing element in jazz anymore. I hear them talk about, you know, how complicated this guy is, or these guys were playing in 11/4 and 15, and you know. I say, yeah, but the music I grew up with was, we always talked about whether or not it swung. That was one of the main functions of the or criteria when you were judging music, was like, does it have a good feel? Is it swinging? Well, and then you could say, well, what is swing? You know, and just something that makes you feel good. It makes you feel it in your body. So to me, that's what jazz is. It's a feeling. At its deepest, it's a feeling of swing and joyfulness and blues somewhere all mixed in. And then on top of that, it's a form of expression. It's a way to express yourself through a medium that has a tradition. It's just like art, you know. Just like if I wanted to paint, I would want to learn how to paint like the masters. I mean, I would want to learn. I wouldn't want to be able to reproduce a Cezanne painting or a Matisse painting, but I would want to know what these guys, what they did to get to that point. I would want to know the history. So to me, it's also the history of the music is important, the history of the art, and I like to feel that I want to continue that. So it's just it's a feeling. It has to do with swing, it has to do with the blues, and it has to do with expression. And that's the closest I could get to it, but I don't think anyone can give you an exact definition.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace, reporting live here at the Jazz Standard here in New York City. I'd like to personally thank the legendary John Abercrombie for his time, as well as the staff and management here at the Jazz Standard. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Until next time, peace.
Thank you.